The sad news I wanted to mention to start with is that Michael Stredwick, who was the district governor for our district back in 2001, 2002, and again in 2002, 2003, sadly passed away earlier on this year. He was a member of Frome Selwood and had latterly moved off to the States. So I just thought it would be appropriate if we had a moment's silence. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so getting on to the business of today. First of all, we've all been struck very much with... Yes, Chrissy, you wanted to say something?
Just from the chat line, Taunton Vale Rotary are asking, can they get a transcript of the recording, please?
As far as I know, we should be able to let them have it once we've recorded it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to talk a bit about COVID-19 and say how impressed I've been with everybody's reaction to help their local and international communities in this dreadful situation. And I'd particularly like to single out Mendip, who not only have been involved in their community, but have been very involved in publicising what they do. And I think it's very important that we do publicise what we do to make sure people know that Rotary is out there and getting on with doing what we do best. One of the things we started to do a few weeks ago was to use up the balance that we had in our district grant foundation monies to help support clubs in meeting their local challenges and to help the local communities, food banks, etc. Unfortunately, that ran out, and therefore the district support team decided that what we would like to do was to donate or earmark £10,000 to be match grants for clubs to support COVID-19 projects. And you have been notified of this, and one of the things you're going to do today is actually break new ground by voting online as to whether we approve this or not. So if I can launch the poll. You can all see the poll now, I imagine. Are you in favour of the proposal for district to allocate £10,000 from general funds for match fund club project in respect of COVID-19 up to £250 per club project?
Dennis, we can't actually see the poll at the moment. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you'd like to vote yes or no in favour on that, I'll give it a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll just give it another couple of seconds. Yeah, same problem, I'm afraid. We are recording it. The license hasn't kicked in. Okay, thank you very much. We've had 97 in favour and 1 against. So I think that's probably carried. Okay, thank you very much. So, of course, this is effectively my last official duty of my year, and it doesn't seem possible. It's a year ago since I was running the assembly for my year, and I'd like to thank everybody for all their help, fellowship and hospitality that you've shown me after last year. So if we now pass over on to Rory.
Like my iPad is, if that's somebody else's iPad. I don't know who that is.
No, yours would be under your name.
Okay.
Could I just mention, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
There are a few people that still aren't muted. So if you look at your screen, you should see a little red person with an arrow through it. If you could try and mute yourself to try and keep the external noise down, that would be great. So good morning. As Dennis just said, this is his last forum, and I'd like to thank him for all his hard work over the year, and also the years leading up to his position as district governor. It's a 3-year journey. He's gone about his work in a quiet but persuasive way, and he's been a great help to me in planning for my year next year. So I just wonder, Dennis, can you just unmute everyone for a second? Would that be easy?
Yeah. Okay.
Could everyone join me in a round of applause for Dennis and all the hard work over the year? You can mute everyone again now, Dennis.
But that will include you, of course.
Yeah, try not to mute me. Otherwise, this could be a short meeting.
Can you raise your hand again so I can find you?
That's it.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, who would have thought we'd be planning for the next Rotary year with the world turned upside down with this global pandemic? Our work is that of volunteering, but when considering our age demographic, our first thoughts must be for our own health, both personal and physical and mental, but also that of our families. And so we are all mindful of staying safe during this pandemic. Rotary International and Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland has directed that there should be no physical meetings in this calendar year. And we've all had to get used to conducting meetings electronically on Zoom and other platforms. Despite the sudden changes inflicted on our daily lives, the principal objectives for the coming year outlined by our incoming president, Holger Nack, remain the same. But firstly, the theme for the coming year, it's Rotary Opens Opportunities. There's the banner, Rotary Opens Opportunities. And there are two main objectives for the coming year. One is end polio, and the other is grow Rotary. Now, turning to polio, as many of you know, is only there in 2 countries at the moment, Pakistan and Afghanistan. Yet both countries present challenges in that access is difficult in some areas, and also there are some hostile areas. So it's a great challenge to fight polio in those countries. To be honest, before International Assembly, I was dubious about the need to fundraise for polio because it was only prevalent in 2 countries. But I quickly changed my mind because polio, like coronavirus has been, is only a plane away. But what really changed my mind was the immunization program, because we're not just immunizing in those 2 countries. There's a continuing program of immunization in 70 countries, and that costs approximately $900 million every year, $900 million every year So we must continue to support it, and please support Polio and Foundation. The other objective, growing Rotary. Little did Holger Knack know in January that we were about to experience a global pandemic. But despite all the challenges of being in that situation, the massive upsurge in community spirit and volunteering has given us the opportunity to engage with people about the benefits of joining Rotary. So more about that later. What I want to talk about is Holger's key messages for the coming year. Firstly, there will be no numerical targets for membership growth. We need to embrace change and enter the digital world. He cited the example of Kodak, a former blue chip company that failed because it didn't embrace change. Well, certainly we've been embracing technological change. Who would have thought we'd be doing all these Zoom meetings? But as clubs, we need to change our ways as well. And on the matter of change, we need to start new clubs and consider new club models to suit the changes in the pattern and rhythm of our daily lives. We need to give focus to environmental issues now more than ever before. There is no wrong age to be a Rotarian. I know that there have been some thoughts about, if we get rid of the oldies, we'll have more chance of attracting the young ones. But there is no wrong age to be a Rotarian. Make sure your club meets new member expectations. Rather than expecting people to adapt to club ways and rules, make sure your club adapts to meet the aspirations of your existing members and also potential members. And choose your members with care. Don't take on members just to increase numbers. Have at least one strategy meeting every year. You need to work out where you want to get to and have a plan to get there. I realize that in this current pandemic, all plans may be on hold. You may have to have a plan B, a plan C even, and you need to adapt as we go along. We are one of the world's best charities, so please support it by giving to Foundation. We're acknowledged as being one of the world's best charities, so please give, set up direct debits, standing orders to support our Foundation. And Holger's final message is have fun. If you're not having fun, then you'll not be enjoying Rotary. And so the program remains really important. And I know that many of you are using the Zoom opportunity to have speakers at your meetings from all over the world. In our last two meetings at Taunton Vale Rotary Club, we've had speakers from America, and it's been very, very entertaining. So our greatest challenge, and indeed our great opportunity, is to interpret and deliver on these objectives in the current coronavirus climate. Now I want to talk about the team. Some of the team are speaking today, and I'll introduce them later, but I'd like to welcome the following new assistant governors. We have Rick Canham, who is also membership chair and will be district governor nominee next year. He'll be looking after clubs in Northwest Somerset. We have Mike Hedges, who is also district training officer. He'll be looking after Bath and Northeast Somerset. We have Penny Underwood. Sadly, she hasn't been able to log on. Past secretary and still assisting in that role along with Jane Redfern. She'll be looking after Somerset and North Dorset. And we have Clive Wakely, who'll be looking after North Somerset area. The remaining AGs are continuing in post and serving their existing clubs. we have Bruce Bailey, Jane Gibbs, David Price, and Kate Whitewood. If you're uncertain as to which AG is serving your club, do contact Chrissy Bailey, our District Secretary. As you are aware, Michael Fernando will be District Governor-elect, succeeding me as District Governor after next year. Chrissy Bailey, as I've just mentioned, remains as District Secretary, and Stephen Morse remains as District Treasurer. Now I'd like to talk about our action plans. All our plans are in keeping with the vision of making a difference, employing the enthusiasm, skills, and efforts of you, the members. How we deliver those plans is the challenge, but also the opportunity that I spoke of earlier. The main areas of focus are supporting and strengthening clubs, more than ever during these times, creating new clubs and new groups, continuing the work in forming satellite clubs. Education and training. With a few exceptions, I believe our understanding of foundation and the grant system is not great. And we do not have sufficient time today to have a proper session on it. And so our foundation chair, David Perkins, is going to have a separate session in the coming week, which I'm confident will give you all the information you need about foundation and the workings of the grant system. Public image. This is so important, especially when we need to engage with volunteer groups and the public. And Martin and Sarah Holly, our public image chairs, will be talking about this later. Humanitarian service. This is about promoting community service in our club activities. And Chrissy Bailey and Sarah Folland will be talking later about the work that you have been doing in your clubs during coronavirus. A word about conference now. We planned for conference to be a tool that you could use to promote Rotary and bring your non-Rotarian friends and family to. But sadly, we've had to postpone it to the 17th of April next year. Despite the postponement, the message remains the same, and our key speakers have all confirmed the new date. We will, however, be guided by government advice nearer the time regarding staying safe, but hope to be able to deliver a conference that is different but relevant. And if we can't have a physically attended conference, we'll contemplate a virtual one. Now I turn to membership. I mentioned using the conference as a tool to recruit members, and I now would like to introduce our membership chair, Rick Canham, to talk about membership. Over to you, Rick.
Okay, thank you, Rory. I hope you can all hear me. I can't see if you can or not, but anyway. I've had to change this slightly because obviously circumstances are different. But as we look forward to a new Rotary year in these challenging times, we must acknowledge the fact that our clubs will be changed by the events we are witnessing. It is appreciated that some are not at ease with the new communications we're forced to use, and that we're all frustrated by the absence of physical club activity. We need to find the positives in what is quite likely to become the new model for a lot of clubs and embrace the changes forced upon us. I see this as an opportunity for us to actually grow our membership, and we can now communicate to a much broader and receptive audience and interact with groups and individuals on a more personal basis. In the coming year, the membership team want to work with you to explore new ways of recruiting and retaining members. The membership team has collected a lot of different ideas from individual clubs on membership recruitment schemes, and it is intended to make this a resource that we can share with you and help adapt to your club's individual circumstances. We fully appreciate that recruitment is not easy and can be a lot of work for a club, so we will be encouraging clubs to work together to share the load and be in a position to offer a variety of ways a potential member can be part of Rotary. Something perhaps we haven't done before, but new communications now make that much easier to achieve. The biggest issue has always been, who do we approach? Because people do not normally throw themselves at us. Well, look around at the thousands of local volunteers who are helping your communities at the moment. These are your new members, so make contact, offer to help, and keep their enthusiasm for helping alive when this is eventually over. Rotary in Britain and Ireland has also been looking at ways to help us recruit in new ways, and available to us in the near future will be Connect by Rotary, which will be a platform for potential members to look at Rotary, learn about what we do and why we do it, what it gives back, and the different ways they can be part of our great organisation before committing to a specific club. This will be available to you as a tool soon, and you'll hear a bit more about it later this morning. To keep clubs strong, particularly at the moment, RI have released the latest Rotary citation goals. These goals are seen as achievable goals that you set at the start of your year. You only have to achieve 13 out of the 25 to qualify, and in doing so, not only will you be honoured with the citation, your club will be better for it. I won't read them all, but some of the goals are: club membership. How many total members does your club want by the end of the Rotary year? Service participation. How many members will participate in club service activities? New members. How many members will sponsor a new club member during the year? Rotary Action Group. How many club members will be members of at least one Rotary Action Group? Leadership development, very important. How many members will participate in leadership development programs or activities during the year? District conference attendance. We've just heard from Rory, we're having to make changes, but how many members will actually attend the district conference? District training. How many clubs committee chairs will attend district training? Benefactors, very important for Foundation. How many individuals or couples will inform the Rotary Foundation of their estate plans to include the endowment fund as a beneficiary, or will make an outright gift of $1,000 or more to the endowment fund? Service projects. How many service projects will your club complete during the Rotary year? Rotaract. Will any of us sponsor a Rotaract club? I do hope so. Youth exchange. How many youth exchange programs will we be able to manage? Maybe dependent on government. RILA. How many individuals will your club sponsor to articulate in the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards when we get round to holding them? Does your club have a strategic plan? Does your club have an online presence that accurately reflects its current activities? An important one, social activities. How many social activities will your club hold outside of regular meetings during the Rotary year? Update the website and social media. During the Rotary year, how many times per month will your club's website or social media accounts be updated? And will you use official Rotary promotional material? Very important. Keep the message. It's all a bit long-winded, and I will circulate the full template to all clubs. But you see, the benefits of completing the citation are to strengthen your club at a time when it may need strengthening. We need to stay together in this whilst we're actually not together. I hope you can see that although there's a lot of Rotary that we all recognise still being carried out, there is also a place for new and different styles of Rotary that will complement and enhance what we do. It is not a rival Rotary. It's Rotary for those for who, whatever reason, would find it difficult to join in with the more accepted face of Rotary. We owe it to our organisation to make Rotary available to everyone who wants to do good in this world. That's enough of me, and I want to finish by showing you a promotional video made by Frome Town, give you a flavour of how Rotary can work in a different format. Please enjoy. Dennis, if you could run that for me.
My name name's Becky Bird and I am part of the Frome Town Rotary. We're a relatively new club, so I'll be our third president. Harry's Hydro is a charity that we've known about for a long time, and rather than putting financial support in, what they came to us and asked for is just some practical help.
Every 2 years we've got to totally sand down, clean and re-treat the whole outside of the building, which it's not an insignificant building, and that can cost quite a lot of money. But Andrew and his team very kindly, when I first met them, said, is there anything we can do to help? And I said, well, you look quite young and fit. How's about? And they jumped at it.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of it.
Yes. Frome Town Rotary have saved us a lot of money, and they're supporting hundreds of disabled people who use this facility every week.
All of our members are working. We can't do the traditional types of meetings that a Rotary Club would have. We can't even do a meal every week. But when we founded the group, that was the acceptance that we will give as much as we possibly can as working members. It's a good dynamic. We've got a broad spectrum of ages, professions, abilities, skills. It's an instant group of friends, which is really good.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Andrew Lee. I'm founding president of Frome Town Rotary. We're one of 3 Rotary clubs in Frome. We've got about 24 active members at the moment. One of the things that attracted me in terms of setting up a new club is that one of the things I've said was there are no rules in Rotary, and the only rules are that you have to meet regularly. So we meet twice a month, first and third Tuesdays. We meet in a coffee shop that's attached to a pub, which is all around us here. The brand of Rotary is very powerful. The new members that come in that knew nothing about Rotary recognise actually that it opens doors, that it's something to be proud of.
Rotary was never really on my radar at all, and the more I looked into it, the more I thought it was relevant, particularly in the new guise of our club, with its flexibility, which allows me as a working person to still commit, but also not feel as though I'm missing out when I'm working away. So my message would be to anybody, well, if you have the opportunity to join Rotary, then try it and see what happens.
Thank you very much, Rick. Great video, just shows how Rotary can work, and not in the traditional way. So now on to public image. We seem to have mastered the ability to communicate virtually through Zoom and similar platforms, but how do we make ourselves known and connect with the volunteer groups and public? It gives me great pleasure to introduce our public image chairs, Martin and Sarah Holly.
Hello everybody. Sorry about the noise in the background. Martin's just making coffee, so his timing wasn't very good. We're Public Image. I've just put a PowerPoint presentation that we've got to show you. Our zone coordinator actually sent it to us, so we can't take too much credit for it because she did most of the work on there. So I'm just going to share that on the screen now. If anybody wants me to speak to them privately, if you just want to put on the chat and I can send you our phone number or email address once we've gone through this. Okay, so I'm just going to share this now.
Nothing's come up yet, right, Sarah?
Just thinking about it. Okay, is it there now?
Just a black screen at the moment. Oh, there we are. You've got it.
Okay. Right, okay guys, I've got it working now. So COVID-19, obviously it's more important now to have a presence on social media. We can't go out and about and see people. So I've just put together a few bits here. So if we get it right, it's going to promote our clubs in the community more than ever. So this is a quote from Paul Harris. This is as relevant now as when he first said it. I'll give you a chance just to quickly read through that. So the importance of public relations. We can increase awareness of Rotary, create brand image and reputation, develops loyalty, promotes goodwill, and builds trust and credibility. So from a point of view here, we say you've got to do good, and that's mainly for the community. But when you're doing some good, you can then promote it. Don't do it the other way round. Your image is not as important as actually what you're doing for the community. Okay, so there's a lack of recognition of the Rotary emblem. We reckon only 20% of the general public actually know about us and what we do. So that makes it a bit more difficult for us when promoting Rotary. They've gradually evolved the rondel. We know what it means, we're all Rotarians, but hopefully going forward with the new branding, with the actual word Rotary there sort of in bigger font, then hopefully people will see that and recognise what we're all about. Guys, my screen has frozen.
Can you still hear us?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We're on to bacon rolls now. So if you do, you use posters either online or actually physically put them up, make sure they're eye-catching, make sure people want to look at them and stop and read them. And so there's some examples of what you could be doing, a nice tasty looking bacon roll. So just make sure what we do put out there does attract people and make people want to look at them. Next one. And share your story. It's easy to say, but when you're doing things, as Rotarians, we all seem to know what we're doing, what other clubs are doing, what Rotary are doing, but always put yourself in the mindset of a non-Rotarian and what they might be thinking and what they may see. So, update social media regularly. There are some stock images you can use on the Rotary website for things that Rotary are doing nationally and internationally. Please share those and use those so people get to know. Back to you, Sarah.
Okay, so we've got some resources here. We've got the site there for the brand centre. Now remember, it's American, so they spell centre incorrectly. You've got PI kit with us, so anybody that wants to borrow the Rotary pull-up posters, we've got a gazebo. Obviously at the moment this is all irrelevant, but going forward, later in the year it'll be there for everybody to use. There's public image newsletters which are sent out centrally. We've got all the Rotary videos like the one that Rick just showed. They're all on the website for anybody to share on their social media pages, and we're here to answer any questions. Now, copyright. This is a huge thing at the moment. There are companies out there going through and tranching through different websites looking to see if you've used an image that is owned by somebody else. Please, please, please check that you're not using somebody else's image, because you could be fined, basically. Now, this is another important thing. Anything that you share with children's faces on, you've got to have the parents' permission. We were sent this through from the zone coordinator. We've no idea if these kids' parents have been asked if their posters can be on our site, so we've blacked out their faces. Just proves the point that, unless you're asking, your photos are going to look like this. They're not very good.
We're in strange times. We're all using technology like we haven't before. But in times of crisis, technology moves forward, and our understanding of technology moves forward. So hopefully we can continue to use technology in the coming months and years to promote our clubs, promote Rotary, and attract some newer younger members.
And please, please don't be scared to invite the public to come to any of your Zoom meetings. You wouldn't be scared of them coming to a meeting around a table promoting what you're doing. So we should be doing the same online. And you know, you might be able to go out to these different volunteer groups and get some of them to come along and just listen to what they're doing. And conversely, then we can help them going forward. This is us. The email address is there. And as I say, if you want to get in touch, you can do so on the chat now, or email us at any point. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Sarah. Just a thought, my children are on Facebook and Twitter, and that's how many of the youngsters and some of us communicate. And I just wonder if any of you want training in any of those things, I could do with it. Please talk to Chrissy Bailey, and it may be that we can organise some training with the help of Martin and Sarah. It may be in your clubs that you have someone that's expert on those media, but please do to come forward if you want some help. We now switch to youth. We normally spend a lot of time in the year working with young people with competitions, as well as hosting RILA. And I'd now like to hand over to Martin Carter to tell us more about the plans for the coming year. Over to you, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Rory. I'm just going to share a screen. Hopefully it works. Yes, right. So good morning. So it's somewhat difficult as schools are currently closed and there's the furor going about when they're going to open. But this was a recent Rotary International promotion saying that May is indeed time to celebrate youth. But I say as it's difficult, but we need to look about increasing our activity with young people and use this time wisely, perhaps. Is it going to work? Yes. So this is the question we're keen to find out about. We'll be sending out a questionnaire to everybody in the next couple of months, just trying to establish the full picture of what exactly is going on across the district, because we know the clubs are engaged in the regional and the district-wide competitions, but there's a lot going on just within the clubs, which is fine, but we just want to quantify what it is we're doing and see where we can support and hopefully get more engagement as and when schools return. We're also keen to learn from anybody, any of you who are perhaps teachers or working in schools, to see what it is that we can do to improve and learn more about what we offer. This was a recent document that I picked up talking about public image. You can see where it came from, but absolutely excellent document to explain to young people what it is that they can benefit from by joining the Rotary family. And this was distributed out to all clubs through the district. So hopefully you've all had sight of it, or certainly somebody in your club should have it. And it hopefully help you engage with the schools locally to see and explain to them the benefits of our youth programme. We have a whole range of competitions and activities, some of which I'm sure most of you are aware of, but there may well be some that are new and that you're not aware of. So if that is the case, then do get in touch and I can explain more about it. A lot of these you can search on the web, but they don't always come up with all the full information unless you log into the My Rotary website. So you have to bear that in mind. But we want to capitalise what we're doing and perhaps plan ahead in this hiatus when we can't actually engage with the schools. But let's get geared up in this time, ready for September when the schools are coming back, hopefully. It's going to be difficult because clearly their fundamental aim is to catch up with the learning of the students. But let's look outside of schools as well, because it is youth opportunity, not a school opportunity. So look at other avenues where we can perhaps engage. So those after-school clubs, scouts clubs, other organisations, young carers, for example. So just don't look for the stock school, but look at the wider youth activity programme and see what it is and where we can go with that to engage more young people, hopefully. So here is the whole range of the activities that we have. And you may have seen this if you were at district conference last year. For example, something new on the right-hand side there, you see young filmmaker. I do know that there is one school in the district that has already notified us that they want to engage in this young filmmaker competition. So that's great from September. So we've got one Rota Kids club and we have one Interact club in the district. I'm sure we can do more than that, because we've got to think this is the family. If we start young and we gain them, you know, I recently had contact from a member of the school where we've got the Interact club. She contacted me to say, in this times, I'm not in school, I'd like to volunteer. Can I join you in Rotary to do that? So we never know, as people said before, where we're going to get our next Rotarians. But it could be, if we're out there doing these projects, people are going to catch on and hopefully come back to us. Something I think everybody's aware of is RILA. We have put the date back next year. So we're hoping that from September we'll be able to engage the students still, and we benefit from better weather, and also, you know, going back, we should still be able to run the programme. Just a couple of points there you can see sent through from John Mander, who eternally grateful for continuing to manage RILA for us in the district. Future vision, as I've just said, let's have more Rota Kids and Interact clubs. Let's find out from this questionnaire just exactly who's doing what and where we can improve it. And something new that not everybody's aware of, but I will be promoting, is this the Leadership and Management Programme, which is something tangible for the students where they can get qualification out of their engagement with us. And finally, it is, you know, something to remember, the Rotary stairs. We don't start building a house from halfway up, so let's start building Rotary from the ground up. Let's look at Rota Kids, Interact and progress, and we will have a greater family of Rotary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. I was particularly interested in that last slide where we talk about Rota Kids, Interact, and then Rotaract. When I was at, perhaps you could unshare your screen now.
Oh,
that's all right, Martin. But on that slide, Rotaract, when I was at International Assembly, I noted that countries where Rotary was growing all had strong Rotaract. That's their pipeline for Rotary membership. And as Martin just said, when I look at our pipeline, it's not only fractured, it is pretty much non-existent in our district. So we're extremely lucky today to have the incoming chair of Rotaract in Great Britain and Ireland, Heidi Eggleton, to talk to us today. Heidi, over to you.
Hi guys, thanks Rory, and thanks so much for welcoming me here today and inviting me to speak. I hope you all are enjoying your district assembly so far. So yeah, I'm Heidi, and I'm really happy to be here today. I'm calling you from Shaftesbury in Dorset, so I'm actually really close. I was born and raised in Dorset. I've spent the last 2.5 years in Brighton, studying at the University of Sussex. And within the next week, I would have finished my degree. So for the meantime, I'm in Dorset because of obviously of the current situation. So it's really nice to connect with Rotarians who are just around the corner. So to give you a quick summary, what is Rotaract? Basically, Rotaract is a space for young people aged 18 and above to take on community projects, socials and other initiatives. Rotaract exists to create leadership opportunities for young people. I'm 21, I've been a club president, represented my district, and I'll now represent GBI as chair of Rotaract GBI 2020-21. However, although you can be a Rotarian at the age of 18, often leadership positions aren't always easily available to young Rotarians. So I invited a friend of mine, James, who is in this call with us today. James is a young Rotarian, he's 23, and both of us have experienced struggles as young leaders in Rotary. However, given that now Rotaract is no longer a Rotary programme, but a Rotary partner, so Rotaract is now equal to Rotary. And as of the 1st of July, a Rotaract club can launch without the support of a Rotary club. Obviously, we want the support there, but Rotaract clubs are no longer dependent on Rotary. And Rotaractors and young Rotarians, we're just younger, and many of us really prioritise taking action. But other than that, we're pretty much the same. So given the example of myself, I'm a little bit like one of those tiny bouncy balls, always moving around at a fast pace. And us Rotaractors, we're impatient, but consequently we get things done. And I guess that's another cool difference. When you work with Rotaractors, actions happen fast. However, as we are younger, we often face a stereotype that we are less experienced and less capable. But in reality, the Rotaractors I have met from all over the world are already smashing it at life. So, my approach for my year will be bottom up. My team and I will be working hand in hand with every Rotaract club around the country to support them. We also plan on creating a national service project that we will, of course, be inviting all Rotary clubs to join us in. I've recently set up the Rotaract E-Club of GBI with James. So if you know anybody of aged 18 to 35, then please get in touch with Rory, who can pass on their contacts to me. And I know your district has come up with the idea of launching 2 Rotaract clubs, and I'm here for your team to contact at any point regarding this. So something I would like to quickly challenge you on is the phrase youth and young people. From my experience, if you ask a Rotarian, youth can mean anything from teenagers to people in their 40s. But we need to unpack this. Martin just said that young people are the tomorrow of Rotary, but I'd have to disagree. Young people are the present of Rotary. I'm a young person and I'm in Rotary. We have InterKids, Interact, Rotaract, and of course Young Rotarians, and we are all in Rotary. 2 of my closest friends are Rotarians. One is 23 and one is 27. So if you're finding that your clubs aren't attracting young people, you have to ask yourselves why. Now, firstly, when you say young, do you want to attract teenagers and people in their 20s, or would you be better off targeting people in their 30s and 40s? A big gap in Rotary is with people in their 30s and 40s. So I formed a group with James and some other Rotarians and Rotaractors. We meet once a month and we have 2 goals. The first, grow Rotaract. And the second, to make Rotary more intergenerational, particularly focusing on 30s to 50s. We call ourselves Rotary Refresh, and if a few people in your district wanted to join us, I'd happily welcome you to our next meeting. Within my experience of working with Rotary, I've realised in order to grow Rotaract, we have to grow Rotary. So, questions to ask yourself. Is our club accessible for people aged 30 to 50? Do we meet at a time that would be suitable for people who work during the day? Does our club actively welcome women? Is our venue suitable for people with children? And does our club welcome members to bring their children? Do we have weekly meals before our meeting that is potentially a financial barrier to other people joining? After asking yourselves these questions, go and ask people in that age group and ask what they think. For some Rotarians, their club has met in the same venue at the same time and had a meal together for years before I was even born. And I'm not asking all clubs to change. If you do want to be a sustainable club with younger members, then change often does need to happen. And I'd happily support your district in unpacking these questions at a later time through discussions with Rory or Stuart, who's your DRC, which is the Rotarian in charge of looking after Rotaract. So why have I spent most of my presentation talking about Rotary and not Rotaract? Because if we can attract more people in their 30s and 50s to join Rotary, we will also grow Rotaract. At the moment, as a young person, I'm not overly keen to become a Rotarian. But saying that, I think I'll now have to be in touch with Frome Town Rotary, as that is the exact sort of club I would really like to join. If I see Rotary as an organisation representing all types of people, such as young families, young and middle-aged professionals, as well as people in their early retirement or retirement, then I'm going to think, now that's an organisation I want to join. It's not about kicking older people out of Rotary, but welcoming the middle generation in. And if you guys can help me do this, then I can help you to grow Rotaract. So to conclude, when Rotarians come together and not only include, but actively listen to the voices of young people and Rotaractors, then they begin to understand us. Often Rotarians say they love Rotaract and they do a lot of Rotaract work, but we don't want Rotarians to work for us, we want Rotarians to work with us. Rotarians, I ask you, please don't see Rotaractors or young people simply as young bodies who are good at volunteers at your events. As much as we love to help, I ask you to also see us as fresh minds with the energy to really change the world. Thank you.
Well done, Heidi. Very refreshing, and I'm sure everyone, even virtually without the sound on, will be applauding that. Thank you so much indeed. And it really is important for us to widen the membership, include Rotaract, and do something about it in our district. And Martin was mentioning earlier, carrying out a survey of all our connections with youth to try and encourage our greater connections with young people. Thank you very much, Heidi. So now I come to Foundation, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce David Perkins, our Foundation Chair. Over to you, David.
Good morning, everybody. I'm David Perkins. I'm your District Foundation Chair, and I only have a couple of minutes to tell you about the charity that provides the funding for all of Rotary's do-goodery, so I have to keep it very brief. Basically, Rotary and Rotarians are renowned for doing good, yes? Rotary clubs all around the world help their local communities with time, effort, and money, yes? But when clubs take on greater projects, they have to look for help with the finance. And that comes from Rotary's own charity, the Rotary Foundation. It's one of the top performing charities in the world. 92% of every pound, dollar, euro, yen, or whatever donated to the Rotary Foundation is spent on doing good in the world, which is precisely what it was created for. Rotary clubs with projects beyond their means can draw down grants to help. The main ways are through district dedicated funds, DDFs, which are administered by your own district grants team. Grants this year have ranged from RILA applications to clean water in Africa and Nepal, as well as the Dorchester Hospital Cancer Unit, to name but a few. Foundation gets its money from the donations of Rotarians and clubs. And the really good thing is that the money we donate comes back to the district 3 years later. Now, how fantastic is that? But if we don't put the money in, there will be not enough money to spend in 3 years' time. Unfortunately, donations from District 1200 have been falling off of late. Current projections indicate that our DDF in 3 years' time, that's 2022-23, will be a mere $15,000, as opposed to the $44,000 that we've had this year. So I'm rather concerned that your ability to do good in the district will be somewhat curtailed. It needs every Rotarian and club to give a little bit to the Rotary Foundation on a regular basis to enable us to keep on doing good in the world. And incidentally, it would help if clubs could get their annual donations in before the end of May. Now, it's a very short time that I've got, so to give you a proper brief on it, I will be holding a Rotary Foundation seminar next Friday evening at 7 and next Saturday morning at 10. So if you would please log into that, I can tell you more about the wonderful charity that most Rotarians don't understand. And there's much, much more to understand. I'll send joining details to all president-elects and foundations chairs, so please spread it around your clubs. Or, of course, you could always invite me to come along to your club Zoom meeting as a guest speaker. That's all the time I've got to tell you about Foundation, but polio is also a part of Foundation, and it is Rotary's top priority this year and for many years past. So I think there's a video to tell you more. Thank you very much.
I contracted polio when I was 15 months old in Lagos, Nigeria, and you know, polio is a horrible, terrible disease, and what it does is it causes paralysis, and for me it was mainly my left side of my body, so my left leg is completely paralyzed, and then it does have a little bit of an effect on my left hand, but I consider myself one of the luckier ones. It's always good to come back to East London. This is where I grew up. I've seen the transformation of this area, and yeah, the memories from 2012, and then now to be here planting these crocuses, representing Rotary and as an ambassador for Rotary, and also for the Purple for Polio campaign. I mean, it's perfect. It's hard to put into words what Rotary have done for this campaign. It's absolutely astounding. I don't think enough people know just how much money Rotary has put in, billions, since they began the Rotary campaign 30 years ago, and just how much work the Rotary members have put into raise awareness and to help vaccinate children all over the world. Yeah, I think they're owed a massive thank you for what they've done, and you know, I'll be there as an ambassador with Rotary all the way until the end. Polio has been in the backdrop and the shadow of my life, the whole of my life. Everything I've done, polio's had an impact on it, and for me to see a disease like polio eradicated in my lifetime, it will be one of the greatest days of my life, and I think one of the greatest days for the human race, because we've only ever eradicated one disease in our history, smallpox. So for us to do a second one, to get rid of a second one, it's just fantastic. You know, we'll be able to be proud and to be able to say that we made a difference. We were part of the generation that made a difference for the human race. Great.
Thank you, Dennis. We need to unshare that. Thank you. We now come on to humanitarian service. Apart from having fun and networking, Rotary offers great opportunities to deliver community service, and our Secretary Chrissy Bailey and Humanitarian Service Chair Sarah Folland are going to speak about what we have been doing in the community while we are currently locked down.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm Chrissy Bailey, and Sarah will follow on afterwards. I've entitled this talk "A Time When Rotary Achieves Even More," because I've been undertaking a task with the help of your presidents and secretaries, to whom I offer my incredible thanks, to try to find out what all the clubs were doing whilst we've been in lockdown. And it has been a real eye-opener for me, because from day one of my appeal for information, we got just shoals of stuff in, and I wanted to share it with you now, because so often when you give information, you don't actually hear what happens to it. But we at District wanted to give this back to you so that you can see what we've been doing as a district at this time of coronavirus. Please, Dennis. So our district approach to lockdown was to reach out and talk to all the clubs in the district, because we just felt that our role wasn't just to be a communicator, but to be a supporter as well. And we decided we would develop a log of clubs' well-being. That's not just the well-being of individuals in the clubs, but also how the club itself was doing too. We wanted to find out what Rotarians were doing in their localities, not just in terms of donations, but also in terms of service. And we wanted to see how people were meeting whilst they were in lockdown, whether they'd come up with innovative ways. We wanted to just test the water to see whether any clubs were donating their meal monies to augment their fundraising on a purely voluntary basis, obviously. And we wanted to be able to share best practice among clubs, celebrate our fellowship in its many forms, and to hold the ring on district activities so that we could all learn what we're all up to and maybe learn some new tricks. New slide, please. So what did we ask clubs to tell us? Well, as of the 30th of April, 46 clubs responded to my request for information about their current activities, which I was absolutely staggered by. And again, thanks to secretaries and presidents for that response. What did we ask for? We asked for everyone in your club to ask if everyone in your club is well. How's your club managing to meet and stay in touch? What activities are your club doing in terms of charity giving, speakers, quizzes, meetings, etc.? We really needed to know the dates of your AGM and club assembly, so that was tacked on as an additional question. And again, we did actually ask about the donations you were making and other fundraising efforts. Okay, Dennis. 35 clubs are regularly meeting by Zoom, which I think is a really remarkable outcome, given the demography of our district. And also we have a further 6 clubs who are considering meeting by Zoom. Other clubs, some are meeting both by Zoom and using WhatsApp, mostly sending amusing items to cheer their clubs along. I don't know whether any of us will ever get used to not having those wonderful funny things arrive in our WhatsApp inboxes. 20 clubs have shared the dates of their AGMs and their club assemblies with district, mostly planning to use Zoom for this. And several clubs have already invited speakers, as you've heard others say, to attend their Zoom meetings. We had an email from RGBI encouraging this just recently. And 11 clubs have decided or are considering to donate their meal monies to their charity accounts, again on a voluntary basis for each member. Yes, Dennis. So what sort of things are people doing whilst they're engaging with their communities? Well, it's fair to say that all clubs have donated to their local charities. And this list of donation organisations is but a mere reflection of the breadth of those being supported at this current time. By far in the lead for beneficiaries is the local food banks, and this is to be encouraged because these are the areas where in our communities our neighbours and friends may well be feeling the pinch. A lot of clubs have joined with local authority-led initiatives, pooling both funds and labour with others to get the most out of their community effort, or working with local partnerships. Local hospitals have been supported and local blood banks have. A large beneficiary is the Children's Hospice, and Freewheelers also has attracted a lot of support, as has Swallow, and Home Start and Somerset Site. I did a quick tally of the amounts that you've told me that you've donated as clubs, and it came to £20,850. And if you add to that the 5,160 matched foundation grants, you can see that District 1200 has made quite a dent in the needs of their local communities. Next slide, Dennis. And as for service, because obviously we are very much a service club as well, we've heard about soup kitchens, delivering food and medicines, lots and lots of clubs involved in this. Lots of clubs have set up buddy systems to make sure that they're keeping in touch with their local community and the vulnerable and the elderly, and indeed are doing shopping and collecting for things from the vulnerable and elderly too. They've been packing food at the food banks, and at Easter they were delivering Easter eggs. They've helped on phone lines, they've worked with the Salvation Army, and we've been making masks and scrubs in some areas. I know that in my own club area of Bridport, masks and scrubs has been a big initiative. And also many of our members are on standby for EVAG, the voluntary aid group. And there are telephone buddies set up for Somerset site as well. Dennis. So is everyone well? Well, the majority of District 1200 members appear to be well. There are many who are isolating or shielding due to their age and vulnerability, although most of the people I meet through Rotary, they may be advanced in age, but they're by no means vulnerable. One club president has had CV-19 and I'm happy to say is recovering, and one member has sadly died of coronavirus. 3 members of clubs have died of natural causes, non-coronavirus related. Okay, Dennis. So how can we get the best out of the effort that has gone into the last 8 weeks from all our clubs across the district? Well, as Sarah and Martin were saying earlier, we really need to tell everyone. We need to tell everyone about the work which Rotary is engaged in and has engaged. Every time we donate or give an act of kindness, any volunteering or assistance is an opportunity to get the Rotary name out there. Please ask the members of your clubs to look around them. Who else are they volunteering alongside in their communities? Because when all this is over, maybe they might be perfect Rotarian material. And use this opportunity to turn those conversations into members. Encourage Rotarians to visit other clubs, both nationally and internationally, and they can do this from the comfort of their own homes. And I'm here to congratulate you, all the clubs, for the efforts that you have put in during this crisis. I'm going to hand over to Sarah now, who's going to just dig into a little bit more detail into some of those issues I've just spoken about.
Hello, good morning everybody. I'm Sarah Folland. I recently have taken over the humanitarian role at District. I've lost you.
It's okay, you're there.
Am I here now? Thank you. And just really to say and to focus in a little bit on Chris's presentation. Obviously, the purpose of Rotary is to embrace and support communities in need, and thus the world perhaps needs Rotary now more than ever before. Chrissy has already demonstrated the wonderful efforts and commitment by our clubs, but I just wanted to talk a few of the main focuses that our clubs have been working to support. I think in all areas, the acts of humanitarian service are promoting and reinvigorating community service. And there is a truly incredible range of activities that are focused on making a real difference. So if I could say food banks, and basically, whether it's by donating meal monies and clubs giving funding, the practical help given by some of the more mobile members, collecting food and other donations, sorting, packing and distribution of food parcels has been very, very much appreciated and very worthy of our congratulations. Obviously, we have the opportunity to promote and raise the profile and needs of the food banks. I've been in touch with the Trussell Trust, but obviously there are smaller, more local food banks that will need sustaining, and this work will be needed for some time to come. Some clubs are also providing meals and cakes and probably other more healthy food to frontline workers in hospitals and urgent care settings. And as a nurse myself, I know this is very, very much appreciated. I'd like to stress the need for long-term investment in food banks, as the impact of the pandemic is going to have long-term consequences to those who may have large families or have lost income through this situation. And one other thing that I didn't put on the slide, and I will be circulating the humanitarian newsletter in the next 24 hours, which I've just received, but it does feature an initiative in District 1220, which is a longer term food bank support scheme, which is called a Rotary for Food Banks, but it may be something you would read about. Next slide. Thank you, Dennis. Thank goodness for technology. Many of us are still learning about that, but at least we have the technology to keep connected, and we have the media to coordinate our united action. So looking after our own is something that Chrissy highlighted. Rotary members create a buddy system sometimes to give support and friendship to fellow members through lockdown. And that does enable those without technology to keep in touch and feel part of the Rotary family. Telephone and befriending support can be done by us all to those in need in their local community, especially the isolated and lonely. Many of us have plugged into the local resilience groups and network of support that is available. Communication and a sense of belonging is enhanced through the use of Zoom meetings, and on a more informal basis through the WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook and Instagram availability. And just to say, the Together Talks, which are streamed through RGBI, which are on Tuesdays evenings for 40 minutes, they are bringing leading speakers from the world of business, humanitarian and voluntary agencies, and I believe are worth tuning into. Next slide, please. Just wanted to highlight a little bit on community endeavour, because the local contributors have been given to various community groups, and support work to the NHS has been really, really very, I think, helpful and valid. I think it's helping the NHS staff and other frontline workers know that we have the heart to fight this virus too. So congratulations to those of you who have got involved with the making of scrubs, masks, laundry bags for NHS, other frontline care workers too. And also collecting bed linen and other materials for this to happen. So all those vocational skills are coming out in some way. And just as a nurse who actually works more in a community setting, but hand and face creams are also much valued, as the use of latex gloves and masks and continued hand washing causes soreness and chapping. So, you know, if you were thinking of donating to your local hospital team or whatever, those are always valued too. Thank you. Next slide. And just more on a wider scale, the Rotary Disaster Response Fund, this has recently added COVID-19 projects to its list of eligible activities for these grants. Districts can apply for grants and can also designate their DDF contributions to the disaster fund, which may be used specifically for COVID-19 related projects. District 1200 has already contributed DDF funds to COVID-19 projects in India and Dominican Republic. So it's nice to feel we have given some international help as well. Next slide, please. Now we almost unanimously voted to support the £10,000 which is being made available from our district. I have been asked to coordinate the applications, and I will be looking at each application with a small panel that will involve Rory and Chrissy as well. And I've just, when I prepared this slide, there were a few areas that we felt that we might be able to help, which are listed on this slide. So Obviously, support for food banks and organisations working to support hardship, community groups that support the ongoing needs of vulnerable people who are self-isolating to ensure that their health and well-being is maintained, groups that are supporting the NHS and social care teams, such as the provision of equipment and PPE, or providing essential delivery services. And also groups who may be providing support to those with mental health issues or providing accommodation for the homeless. Added to that, we have been approached about supporting foreign or international endeavours. If that is a club's choice, we will obviously consider that as well. So we will deal with applications as soon as we can and hopefully be able to let you know within a week or two of your application. So meanwhile, I thank you all for your huge contribution. Keep safe and carry on the good work. And it is through our determinations and commitment that I think we will continue to make a difference. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Rory.
Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you, Sarah. It now gives me great pleasure to talk about the district charity that we want to support for next year. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce an old friend, well, perhaps not so old, Paul Hughes, a past president of Taunton Vale Rotary Club and past membership chair, to talk about a charity which is ideally suited to Rotary and our offering and related to a need that is prevalent throughout our district in the UK. The model can be replicated as a template throughout district and the UK, and please support the charity by allocating some of your fundraising activity throughout the year ahead. Over to you, Paul. Is he there? Have we lost him?
No, I'm here, Rory.
There we are. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you. Dennis, could you put the presentation back up, please? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm obviously very conscious of time and the death by PowerPoint syndrome, so I'll keep this as punchy as possible, and we can move immediately to the next slide, Dennis, because Taunton East Development Trust covers a housing estate in Taunton, which does sit in amongst the 5th most deprived areas in the UK. I'm not going to go through every line on the slide, and I'm going to suggest we put the presentation on the website. But the level of deprivations we are dealing with is, for example, children who don't eat sometimes outside the school holidays because of levels of poverty or whatever income is in the household is spent on drugs. We have very high unemployment rates, severe physical and mental health problems, educational standards less than half the national standard, and levels of crime and domestic violence which are significantly above the county average. And the scale of this is we are dealing with over 6,000 people. If we go on to the next slide, Derek. So what we are here to do is a charity. I can't show you pictures of people doing things because this is about people's everyday lives, and what we're trying to do is break that cycle where to provide a non-judgmental safe haven. We have a centre in the middle of the estate where people can go anytime they want, and to bring that alive, the footfall through the centre is just over 8,000 visits in a year, and that can be for a variety of things which I'll talk through later in the presentation, but everyone knows it's there. If we can move on, Dennis. So some of the immediate challenges we've had as trustees, and I should mention out of the 4 trustees, 3 are Rotarians or all members of Taunton Vale. Financial stability and therefore credibility was a huge issue for us because there were some question marks over the charity's history, which we've dealt with, and we now have. I'm pleased to report that through Rotary's support, we have now nearly a year's worth of running costs that are held in reserves. Our big issue is how do we improve the outreach of what we provide, because our statistics tell us at the moment, out of these 6,000 people, we are still only reaching probably circa 5%, and we've set a target, as you see, of increasing that to 50%. Financially, what we want to do with the charity, when I talk about charity, will take a lot of money. So we are building a fairly, as you'll see there, fairly comprehensive army of financial and non-financial stakeholders. And I'm also delighted to report that Barclays Bank are now being added to that list. So if we move on to the next slide, Dennis, which is, you know, so what if you walked into the centre today, what would you see happening? And there would be a whole range of, if you like, the basic level, there'll be a lot of social activities to give people who are isolated and vulnerable somewhere to go and literally just have company. There is, we bring in experts who can help on things like dietary problems, financial problems, legal, you know, sad to report, currently we're dealing with several families who have care and safety issues around children, with the social services involved, court hearings, and sadly that's a growing demand on our resource. And what we're also working towards is the provision of work experience and skills-based training to start to give people some self-respect and the confidence, actually, I don't have to live my life like this. We're working on a mentoring program for young adults in schools, and ultimately we could look at two things. One would be, actually we've just helped someone feel not isolated and vulnerable. The ultimate in terms of a journey from breaking that daily life cycle is that we get them back into work, and we're actively engaged with companies who will offer apprenticeships, or I'm engaged in negotiations with one person who is going to set up a business to employ people exclusively from the Holcombe estate. So the range and scale of what we're about is clearly huge. Next slide, please, Dennis. And so what are we there to do? Is we don't run this on, Rotary does not run this on a day-to-day basis, but we are there to be a long-term supporter and a catalyst and provide both the financial stability and the sustainability. But you know, Rotarians outside the trustees are helping everybody, are in there every day providing advice. We clearly work very hard on the financial side, and we need to carry on developing the awareness of the charity, because we are supremely conscious there would be a Holcombe probably in every one of your communities where your clubs are based. That's the end of the formal presentation, and I guess where I want to close is two things. In terms of, so how do we know this is successful? Now, we keep a log of what we call success stories, and two examples I will give you is the lady who now manages the centre has a very difficult history of sustained domestic abuse to a very high level, nearly lost her life, and she has now been brought round and is now performing a very demanding managerial function. Another gentleman who was literally from the age of very young age, his mother was a prostitute. She kicked him out at the age of 10. He lived on the streets, became involved with drug gangs, several arrests, prison sentences culminating in one for grievous bodily harm. That gentleman has recently received a volunteer award from Taunton Dean and is an absolutely fantastic guy who is he's also painted the fence in my garden, which was a massive help as well. So that is the type of impact and success that we're looking to achieve, where we really have impacted people's daily lives. And I'd like to close But Dennis, if you can put the police quote up.
I'm sorry,
Screen.
Paul, I haven't loaded it, so it may take time to find. So perhaps you can...
Okay. All right. Well, if Dennis isn't able to do it, don't worry, because my closure was going to be, or will be, sorry. We obviously, one of our big holders is the stakeholders is the police force, and I received an email from the Avon and Somerset Police confirming, which we actually didn't ask for, the value of the charity to the community, the role, how essential the role the charity plays within that community, and how supportive it is to what the police are trying to do, which is actually to make an impact on this community and give people back their self-respect. Thank you, Rory.
Thank you very much, Paul. A really worthwhile charity that we should be supporting. And as I said earlier, a template for activity throughout the district and the UK. Our last session will provide an opportunity to discuss ways in which we can grow our membership, taking advantage of the surge in community spirit during lockdown. But firstly, although I'm conscious of time, I think we need a 2 or 3 minute break for us to recharge our coffee cups, have a natural break, and be back in 2 or 3 minutes time, please. Thank you. Glad you've made it, Penny.
Yeah, I've been here for a while. It took me about half an hour to get in. About 10 attempts.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether Tony Quinn's on.
No, I haven't seen him.
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, he is. Oh,
we got him. He's got what's that bridge behind you, Tony?
That is the original Chelwood Bridge, which is now
Ah,
buried by the
right.
A368 and the A37.
Oh dear.
The roundabout.
I remember it well. Hello, Tony.
It was covered up just before I moved to Bristol.
Ah.
But it's our club banner drawing. One of our members drew it.
Well, I'm glad you managed to get on, Tony. You, despite having paid the subscription to go up to 500 members, it wouldn't allow us to go over 100. So we
Yeah, I
tried
saw it.
again.
I've been here all the time.
Have you? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just looking around, I think most people are back. Would you say, Dennis?
I was on a different view. I was on speaker view.
Okay. I think.
Oh, there's a few empty seats there. So.
Yeah. I think we'll make a start actually, because I'm just conscious of time. So a reminder, if anyone wants to contribute to this session, which I'm hoping is going to be more of an open session, please address your points or questions to Chrissy. I think it was going to be Penny, but Penny's joined us late. But if you can address using the chat facility to Chrissy, she'll pick up the points and make them known to us. I'd like to preface this last session with a short video by Tom Griffin, who's the incoming president of Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland. So Dennis, if you could play that video, I'd be most grateful.
Hello. These are difficult times, worrying times, especially given the large percentage of our membership who are in the more vulnerable age bracket. It's easy to get downcast. It's easy to see the challenges Rotary in these islands will face when we finally return to normality. As so often, in difficult times, positive factors emerge, and the response of Rotary clubs in helping vulnerable and disadvantaged people has been heartwarming. And to me, one ray of hope which shines through the current gloom is the sudden emergence of thousands of people willing to volunteer to help their fellow citizens. The belief held by many that the age of volunteering was past has been exploded. So why have we, the world's best service organisation, struggled to recruit new, younger members? It can't be that people aren't interested in humanitarian service. Perhaps it was that we failed to get the message across that we are such a great humanitarian service organisation. Perhaps it was the fact that to get involved in Rotary service by joining a club, you generally have to commit yourself to a weekly meeting with a meal and all the time and expense that that commitment entails. District assemblies are about planning for the future. So I'm asking you, as you think about the immediate future for your district, your clubs, to consider the lessons that we can learn from the current troubles and how Rotary can emerge from them stronger than before. We are holding this meeting online. Many clubs throughout the world have similarly been meeting online in recent weeks. We've seen how we can still socialise, still enjoy Rotary fellowship without physically meeting. Now, I'm not saying that when the world returns to normality, we should all stop face-to-face meetings completely. But we do need to be asking ourselves, how often do we need to meet in the old traditional way? Because embracing new ways of doing Rotary, by doing that, we give ourselves the opportunity to say to those around who have discovered or rediscovered the pleasure of volunteering, the rewards of community service, why don't you join Rotary? To say to them, we're not asking you to come every Monday evening to pay for a meal and listen to a speaker. To say to them, we've joined the digital age. Rotary will give you the opportunity to continue to serve, but will relieve you of the niggling bureaucratic bits which maybe put you off volunteering in the past. Rotary will deal with insurance, with child protection vetting, with risk management. And by joining Rotary, you open up the opportunity to broaden your service to helping those at home and abroad less fortunate than ourselves. Moreover, there are potential benefits to club even beyond the chance to reverse our decline in membership. Clubs can join together virtually to hear good, interesting speakers whom they would never have had the chance of enticing to a regular meeting alone. And of course, clubs which do join together don't even have to be neighbouring clubs. RI President-elect Hulyo Kanak tells us that Rotary opens opportunities. I know it's difficult to think of the current crisis as an opportunity, but let's look at Rotary's future with a positive mindset. Let's get the firm message across to clubs that even if they can't meet face-to-face, their service and fellowship can continue Let's ensure that when as Rotarians we volunteer, we clearly badge ourselves as Rotarians. And let's use the lessons of these times to look closely at what are the essential elements of Rotary and to operate our clubs in ways which are attractive to the Rotarians of the future. Good luck, keep well, and my best wishes to you all.
Thanks, Dennis. It now gives me great pleasure to welcome Tony Quinn, a past district governor and our zone coordinator, who will introduce a new Rotary initiative called Connect. Over to you, Tony.
Thank you very much. I've just lost the PowerPoint for a minute, but I'll just bring it up.
I've got it loaded, Tony, if there's a problem.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right screen to share it with. There we are. Okay, should have it now.
Yes, got it.
Okay, so this is, I'm really pleased to talk about this. It's a couple of things I want to talk about. One is this one on the screen now, which is called Connect by Rotary. It's a subject that's been worked on by Evanston for about 3 or 4 months, but it's been speeded up because of the epidemic. And it's a way of connecting with people who are not currently Rotarians, but to try and attract them into our membership in the long run. So it's about engagement in the first instance. And I think it's really applicable to the kind of groups we have that we call Friends of Rotary, because they can come into this system. This is what the screen looks like. You'll see that it doesn't have a massive Rotary presence on it. It's very tiny in the top left-hand corner. And it's a project that I've been working on with Rotary Great Britain and Ireland for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And it was started to be piloted 2 weeks ago in the States, in 2 cities, in Chicago and Houston. And its aim is to get people to engage with us through networking. As you'll see in a minute, the first screen here is basically talking about the kind of strategic aims that we have about engaging with people, networking and developing. But it's really a resource for people. So on this one, they can check in. On this slide, these are chat rooms, if you like, where people can lodge questions, exchange ideas with each other, talk to other people of like-minded interest, but not Rotarians necessarily. This is meant to be for people who aren't Rotarians, so it's a free service to anyone who wants to join in, and you can see some examples there. There's a resource centre where we can share some of our learning facilities. At the moment, there will be some simple elements of the Rotary Learning Centre available. And ultimately, there'll be some that can be paid for. So we might want to offer something like mentoring or some presentation skills through a paywall where people can pay a small fee to activate that particular element. So that's that part of it. There's a members directory, a searchable directory. This is a simple element of it. This page is, as you can see, much more detailed. So if you wanted to pick somebody find somebody who's got an interest in peace building or water or fundraising, you can go through like this, or you can go through industry models. And finally, there's a couple of pages on how the thing works in terms of professional development, volunteering. The idea is that we collect people through this process. If they express enough interest, we can try to involve them in our own projects, initially as just simple volunteers, but ultimately with a view to getting them in as members. Again, some more pages on how the thing works in detail. So that's really all I've got to say on that particular subject. It's very early days yet. We've only had a pilot going in Chicago and Houston for a few days. But obviously, I'm going to get an update on that tomorrow. There's a lot more work to be done, but it does enable us to connect with something that is going on at our IBI level at the moment, and that is to have what we call a direct membership of Rotary. And I kind of use the analogy, some of you know I'm a keen caravanner. If you join a caravan club, or if you join the National Trust, you can join a local centre. In the caravan club, we can join any local centre. It doesn't have to be the one we live in. And we can go to any event that they're running anywhere in the country or anywhere in Europe. And this is a similar kind of thing. And we have a vehicle already established at Rotary GBI called the Rotary GBI E-Club, the E-Club of Great Britain and Ireland. And that will be the place that we will initially encourage people to join up with a view to finding them a club locally. But we recognise that not every club is suitable for every person who wants to join us. So this is a vehicle for putting people in touch with clubs that are doing projects that they can join in wherever they might be, and eventually get them into a club or form their own clubs if there's enough momentum in the project. And it's trying to pick up, as we heard just now, the vast numbers of people who've wanted to volunteer. So that's it, Rory. I'm happy to take questions, and I'll hand you back the screen. Can't hear him.
Thank you, Tony. I noticed that this is a pilot scheme. When do you think it will be ready to roll out?
Well, we're hoping that we can roll it out certainly in the UK later in this month, early June. There's a conversation happening on Monday with Brian King, the membership director in Evanston, to try and move that on a bit. So I should know on Tuesday, because I've got a meeting with Amanda Watkin, our General Secretary, and with Nikki Scott, the incoming director, to find out what happened on Monday, really. So we're hoping there's something fairly soon, because we're ready to try and tap into all the work that everyone's been doing with their local communities.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to hearing more, and thank you very much. I'd now like to, sorry.
Can I ask Tony something just quickly? How many e-clubs are there in the UK? Obviously, we've got one in our county, in our district, but how many are there across the UK, not just the RGBI one?
Active ones, I'm not sure the exact number. I would say about half a dozen.
Because it seems this is, it's a short step from your Connect programme to an e-club, not just at RGBI level.
Yeah, it is. It's all part of the same equation, really. Getting people in who can't join a traditional club, who don't want to join a traditional club.
Thank you.
It's just another piece of the jigsaw, really. It's not the solution. It's part of the solution.
Thank you. I'd now like to hand over to Rick, our membership chair, who, with Martin and Sarah Holly, our public image chairs, will take this last session and talk about membership and see if we can move this forward. Don't forget to use the chat facility, and I think Rick is going to open it up to everyone, not necessarily using that facility. Over to you, Rick.
Thank you, Rory. Okay, well, we've all sat for quite a while now listening to everything that's been said, and an awful lot of good things have been said today. But now I think it's time really for everybody here to have their say. Please just remember to electronically raise your hand so that Dennis can unmute you. As I say, it's your turn now to talk about what we've all been saying this morning. The first question I'd like to ask is, why do we need to recruit more members at the moment when our activity is actually quite curtailed? What impact do you think the current situation is having on our membership? Feel free to answer.
If we don't recruit, our numbers will go down. I mean, people will leave for various reasons, and unless there's people, I mean, we've been recruiting and numbers are still going down. So unless we actually recruit now, we're going to end this lockdown period with fewer members than we started it. So, and there's more in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. there's going to be so much more for us to do in the community anyway.
Right, I think you're right. I mean, I think the impact on membership could be quite dramatic in some areas. I think in District 1200 we're fairly fortunate because we seem to be maintaining a lot of contact, but it's not the same everywhere. But membership numbers will fall, and we need to do something about it. On that score, how many of you out there are engaging with your local volunteer groups? And what are you doing to maintain that contact?
Well, we just invited one of the volunteers from the local volunteer group to speak at our next Zoom meeting next week, so they can explain to us exactly how they're organising it, what help they may need from us. And some of our members are volunteering anyway, so we know what they're doing.
Is anybody else out there engaging with the local volunteer groups? We really would like to hear.
Paul in Chard. We've got members that collect prescriptions, shopping, phone buddies, and also when we do our own shopping, we put on our Rotary Randalls, our overcoats, so people see that we're Rotarians. And they ask me, what are you doing? And I say, I'm shopping for 2 elderly people. I don't tell them it's for me and my wife. Shopping for other people. People see that we're volunteering. And I think that I've told all my members, because we have Zoom meetings once a week, to wear their coats wherever they go, even if it's just the garden centre. And it seems to be working.
That's excellent news, and thank you for that. The one I was interested in is there are a lot of groups now set up. I mean, I know certainly where I am, we have the Cheddar Valley Response Team. Are any of you out there connected with such teams? Because there are huge numbers of these groups sprung up. I'd be interested to know how many there are.
Greg, I've got a couple of hands up. Bob and Sharon Haig would like to speak.
Yep, please.
Just wanted to say we're supporting the local food bank. Our president is a volunteer there, and I'm ham and chutney, which some people know, and I've been taking in loads of jars. Our president-elect, our current secretary, Margaret Wright, works at the local food bank, and I make biscuits and muffins, nothing healthy, biscuits and muffins to our local hospital, West Mendip Hospital, the local 2 surgeries, the police department, health center that does a huge amount of other NHS invisible work in the background, getting people out of hospital and into care, 2 pharmacies, and the post office, and the bin men and the recyclers. So I'm giving everybody big thank yous that are edible, and they seem to be pleased.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. I've got another one. I've got Joy and Bruce Bailey.
Okay.
Joy and Bruce Bailey.
Thank you. In view of trying to attract some of these volunteers to join Rotary to carry on volunteering, I've done a first draft of a press release. Got to think about when and where we're going to aim it, all the local press, local radio, etc. But I joined an interesting meeting last week with Spark Somerset, and they are matching volunteers to people who want help. And one of the things that they have is they have contacts at Somerset Cricket Club with their marketing team. So they're going to put me in touch with them to sharpen up my press release and give me ideas on where to aim it. So if anybody wants to contact Spark Somerset, they've got 4 local areas, then they'll have people who can help on whatever you want.
Thank you, Joy. Your microphone was coming in and out, so it wasn't terribly clear. But what you were saying is Spark Somerset have various connections. I'm sure Joy Bailey, who's Langport and Somerton, will be able to give you more information if you'd like to. Next hand up is Karen Berry.
That's me with the other voice.
Oh, hello, Karen.
Yeah, down at Lyme Regis there are quite a few members. I mean, on this meeting today, there's David Sarson. He's heavily involved with our local food bank, and I guess most of the clubs there are going around. We've got a Scrubs, two or three groups of ladies with the Scrubs project there, preparing there. But what is noticeable is how much networking this sad situation has created with the community. I think most of us there are getting prescriptions for our elder members, checking that other people are okay, taking people to hospitals. But the fundamental problem comes is that a lot of our members are over 70 years of age, and I'm not sure we should be doing some of the stuff, but we are. That's it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is all these groups that you're interacting with, are you inviting them to your online meetings? Is anybody doing that?
In a word, no, but we could be.
Well, can I ask why not?
No reason at all.
Ultimately, all of these groups would be ideal little clubs already formed for satellite clubs.
I've taken on board.
Worth contacting them going forward to see if there's any way you can help them in setting up a satellite. Then they'd have all the insurance involved with Rotary as well.
Yeah, I've taken on board your comment earlier in the meeting about the volunteer organisations. Just give them an invite to come and join us and see what we do and see if they enjoy it. So yeah. I'm taking that on board.
That's exactly what I think we're trying to say. We've always struggled when it comes to recruitment. Always, who do we ask? And all of a sudden, we've got thousands of people who put their hands up, saying, "I'm here. I'm a volunteer." We must utilise that.
I've got two more hands up at the moment. Two more hands up. Next one on the list was Paul Hughes. Paul, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, sorry if this sounds slightly controversial, but I don't think we should be at all phased about maintaining or increasing numbers. The focus should be on making sure we recruit the right types of people and ensure the clubs are run in a way which is attractive to a younger generation. We had a very, I think, unequivocal message from Heidi, and I was really thrilled watching the video about Froome. And I think that's what the focus of membership should be, getting the right sorts of people. That's the way this movement will survive, not just by playing a numbers game.
If we recruit people who have been volunteering through the COVID volunteer groups, they will probably be doers, if you see what I mean. They probably will.
Yeah, agreed. That Martin, agreed.
Do things. So hopefully that wouldn't be an issue yet. But I absolutely agree that it's not a numbers game. I prefer to have 2 new members that are prepared to do lots and half a dozen members that don't do very much.
I think it was Evan Burrell that said, recruit Rotarians, don't recruit numbers. As I say, the fact these people have put their hands up, I think says something about them. Sorry, Dennis.
Next one I've got is Pat and Jenny Parker.
Hello.
Hello, Pat.
Oh, last year, I personally introduced 7 new members. This year, so far, I've introduced 2. And when I've spoken to other members of our club, the majority of them are actually too scared to ask somebody. And if you don't ask, you aren't going to get them. Now, there's some wonderful people out there, and what you have to do is ask them. And most of them are only too pleased to come along. We had a membership evening arranged where we had about 14 potential members coming, but because of the shutdown, it never happened. And we deliberately want to leave it till we open up again.
So thank you. Thank you, Pat. Kerry wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. President. You posed the question, Rick, what is happening? The Rotary Club of Mended, I'm very pleased to say, has been extremely active, and you can look on the district site to see the posts that we put there. may I suggest that there's been need in the community before COVID, but we may not have recognised that need and gone out to make acquaintance with those people and combine and ask those people to join us as members. I don't think we're doing enough to go out to the public.
We're certainly not. I mean, what do you think we should do to make ourselves...
Mendip are setting the example by doing what we have done. Even though most of us are over the age of 70, we have still gone out actively and helped in the community now, respecting social distancing. We were instrumental in setting up the line, the phone line, which is manned from 6 until 10 every night, and we've done that for the last month. So we've been out to the forefront, making our presence known as Rotary in Mendip.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because I'm local, I'm very aware of the impact that Mendip is having. Is any other club involved to that degree out there? Not getting a lot of answer. Okay, well, I think what we've established is that there are a lot of people out there. We do need to recruit. We need to recruit the right people. And these people are, in some ways, being identified to us really by default with what's happening at the moment. I think the next question I'd like to ask of you is, obviously we're all meeting by Zoom, or nearly all of us meeting by Zoom. Are any clubs out there considering changing the way they meet in the future when all this is done?
We've spoken about it and we're talking about it. I mean, historically we've met once a fortnight. We're now meeting by Zoom once a week, and we are having a discussion about what we may do once lockdown finishes or whatever. So no decisions have been made, but it is an option that we are discussing. Yes.
Okay. I mean, how many of you are actually enjoying meeting by Zoom?
Yeah, it's different, isn't it? And it takes a while to get used to it. But yeah, it's okay. It can get a bit.
This is my 6th Zoom meeting of the week, so I'm starting to feel a little bit tired. But
yeah, it's because everyone's using Zoom in different groups. You're having family meetings and meetings with other clubs as well. You can get zoomed out sometimes. So but, yes.
Tony Quinn wants to come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that by meeting with Zoom and carrying on with the speaker program, our attendance is up by about 25%. So we're delighted.
Anybody else
I think
experiencing
council
that?
and committees will be on Zoom in the future.
So Rick, can I just raise a question that somebody's put on the chat?
Yep.
And the question is, why can't regular clubs have e-members in their club?
Sorry, why can't regular members?
Regular clubs have e-members in their club, which is sort of a mixture, isn't it, of traditional and what we're doing at the moment. So will clubs need to change to do that?
No, I don't think they would. I mean, it's up to the club if they want to accept members who meet online as part of the club. That's entirely up to the club's decision.
But that club would then have to accept that part of the time they're actually going to be doing e-meetings.
Yes, but I say that's why it must remain the club's decision. If the club is comfortable with that, there's nothing says they can't do it. If a club wants to accept somebody who will only turn up virtually or accept to physical activities, then why not?
We
There's
did have
no
a
reason why not.
some time ago, remember, where we mustn't get too het up about clubs. If someone's a Rotarian, they're Rotarian.
Yeah.
You know, if 2 e-club members came to one of our meetings, I don't mind that they're not a member of our club. If they're prepared to help us when we organise things and what manpower doing things, fantastic. You know, so we mustn't get het up about which club you are a member of. And don't forget, people can now go onto the Rotary website and join as a Rotarian. They don't have to be a member of a specific club.
No, I mean, we need to remember that we are all, when it comes down to it, we are all Rotarians. irrespective of which club we're in, what type of club we're in, we are Rotarians. Satellite members are Rotarians. So yes, if a club's comfortable with it, then carry on. I have no issue with that at all. I think that's maybe the way forward for some, which is the question I'm asking. Are you deciding or thinking about changing the way you're going to meet? Be interested if anybody else has had any thoughts on that, or whether somebody wants to go back to the way they met before this started. No?
Rick, can I say, for my own club, there is a lot of support gaining ground for starting a new satellite club based on the volunteer groups, of which there are a lot in Sherborne.
Excellent.
Yep, nobody's quite sure how to start that ball rolling when these people are all very busy doing their volunteering at the moment. But there's a lot of support within the club because our club is growing older all the time. And I just wondered if you had any advice for us on how we might go about starting a new club with the volunteers groups.
Okay, Penny, that's a very good question. Obviously, as you say, at the moment, they're focused on one thing and one thing only. That's the response to the current situation. Certainly, you need to keep in touch with them. You need to keep on board with them. And I would strongly suggest that as the situation changes and they need to step down, that's when you need to sort of make the bigger push and start introducing them to Rotary in a bigger way. But certainly you need to keep in touch, invite them all to your online meetings so they get an idea. On the Zoom meetings, I think, are a great platform because this is where people can now join your meetings without the formality of turning up one evening at a restaurant, cafe, pub, bar, whatever. And they can sort of dip their toe in the water in a fairly harmless way.
Is that a good idea? Because what they're going to see is old Rotary.
Well, this is what clubs need to be aware of. You're meeting online and you're meeting in a very different format to what you normally do, or most are. Some are still quite traditional. Let them see who you are. That I think is the most important thing.
It's Martin here. We've been through setting up a satellite club, and what you really need to let them know is they've got a blank bit of paper. They don't, even though they might be a satellite club of another club, how they meet and how they organise themselves can be completely different than the mother club, for want of a better word. They can meet once a month. They can meet online, offline. They've got a blank bit of paper to do whatever they want to do, whatever they feel most comfortable with. But knowing that they've got Rotary behind them, with all the support and all the infrastructure there, ready for when they need to do things. So
that's a very, very good point, Martin. I mean, obviously, I know because I'm chair of a satellite club.
Yes.
Rick, and Martin Creed's had his hand up for quite a time.
Sorry. Yep.
Yep. Can you want to come in, Martin? Sorry,
Tim
Creed. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. All my thoughts are: we had a Zoom meeting the other night, and it went well. But I did notice that a lot of members won't talk on Zoom, so I think you lose some of that debate. That's what concerns me a little bit. That at least if you're all in a room, you can see other people sat quietly thinking it over, and that was just the impression. I'm the president-elect. I'd be very worried about making big decisions next year purely on Zoom, because some of our quieter members are even quieter on Zoom. I don't know what people think about that.
It's an interesting point. What does everybody think?
I would just like to say that in my own club, we've got a significant number of people, Tim, who don't actually attend a Zoom meeting for whatever reason. We haven't been able to get to the bottom of that yet, but we are investigating. Those people who do attend do generally contribute and do generally speak, but I am worried about a certain proportion of the club becoming kind of excluded, even though we're actually using other methods and mediums to contact them. I am worried about excluding some proportion of our club.
Yeah, I found out we've got 21 members. We had 19 online the other night, and there are about 4 or 5 that didn't say a word who would normally at a club night chip in their bit and we get their view of it. And I think they're afraid of the technology almost to sort of sit there and speak.
I've found we've been using this technology in district now for 2 years, and we're still learning how to use it because it's very complex and there's lots of it. But I think you'll find, Tim, that as you get to use it, they become much easier and freed up. I mean, 2 months ago, some of the club meetings were pretty dire, really. But generally what seems to be happening is most clubs that are meeting by Zoom are getting more people attend than they do physically.
Yes.
And the more they use it, the more comfortable they are, and I think they will open up. I don't think there's any going back, to be honest. It's here to stay going forward.
Yes, I hope so, Dennis.
Barry Hart has raised his hand. Barry, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Dennis. From the Yeovil perspective, I think we've been Zooming for probably about 5 weeks, possibly 6, and we've had pretty good attendance on Zoom meetings, certainly from people who have not been particularly good technologically wise, and they've managed to do it. They've spoken with you, Dennis, and others, worked their way in, and I think it's freed them up. Sitting at home, they've got the opportunity to talk to people and to listen to people that they've been friends and colleagues with, and oddly, it's a little bit of fellowship. So I think it's been good and positive for us.
And Tony Quinn wants to come in again. Tony?
Just an observation that whether you're chairing a meeting online or a meeting face to face, if people in the room are quiet, you'd invite them to speak. Just encourage them to say something. John, we haven't heard from you. What have you got to say about it? That sort of thing.
Dennis, I'm very conscious of the time, but I think Jane Redfern's sort of physically putting a hand up.
I've tried all the other things. I was just going to add to it that we've made assumptions. We're quite a small club, if you know, 20. We've tended to make assumptions, not just in this, but in the other Zoom meetings that I've been involved in, that everybody will pick it all up as they go along, just like that. Well, actually, we already know in our club, I've been talking to Joy, as at least one member who can get on perfectly well, but actually we can't hear her. So we're going to actually have a test meeting, we hope, you know, just with her, nothing to do with the rest of the club, and try and work out what the problem is. And I think some of the people who have been quiet, probably in your meetings, just don't know where all the buttons are. You'll notice I put earlier, I didn't know till last Thursday that I could go just to a speaker view taking up the whole of my screen, which is much better when you've got a speaker talking to you, not to have all the other 19 people on there. So, you know, I've been doing this for several weeks and I've only just picked that one up. So, you know.
It's something we're going to have to learn, certainly.
Yeah, we can't make assumptions that they will learn on their own.
No.
Okay, Rick. Thank you very much.
One more hand up, Rory.
Okay, Dennis.
John Berry.
Yeah, I'd just like to support what you said just now, because we've had 4 members who failed at the first couple of Zoom meetings we had, and did exactly that. Did a one-to-one, broke it down into absolute simplicity, and I just said, I will send you an email with a link. Click on the link and you're into the meeting. And once you got that fear out of it on a one-to-one basis, suddenly then, the last meeting, we had 19 members there, which is a good number for our club. So it does work, the one-to-one.
Yes, and picking up on that point, I think we need to reach out to the clubs that aren't on Zoom, because I suspect there are members of those clubs who would be interested in getting involved in Zoom. And even if their clubs aren't having Zoom meetings, it may be that neighbouring clubs, or any clubs, doesn't have to be near geographically, should invite their own meetings. So we'll do a little bit of work on that. Thank you, Rick, Tony, and Martin and Sarah. What's been highlighted during today is the massive opportunity we have to grow Rotary, tapping into volunteer groups. There's no magic formula. We probably need to develop a template to execute the objective. Connect sounds a great initiative, and we'll see where we go with that. But it seems to me, Rick, that we'll have to have a membership seminar soon when we talk about all the initiatives. People really have only started with Zoom, with few exceptions, over the last few weeks, and that seems to be going very well. But I think we should have a membership seminar soon to try and work out how we're going to go forward and execute the objective of growing Rotary, tapping into these volunteer groups. So
we'll do that for you, Rory, no problem at all.
Yeah, thank you. So I do hope that in sharing our plans and vision for next year, we'll have given you some positive ideas and you'll take back some messages to help you to achieve your objectives for the coming year. And it gives me great pleasure to hand back to Dennis Stevens to close the meeting.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you all very much. It's exciting year you've got ahead of you, and I wish you all the best for that. It doesn't seem possible that it's a year ago that it was my assembly, and we came up with a theme, if you remember, of just a 3-letter word because we thought the 4-letter word might be a bit rude, and we went for a fun, which was fellowship, updating Rotary and new clubs. Well, sadly, we've not managed to start any new clubs this year, but it's been an overwhelming success in updating Rotary, and this morning has shown that to be true. We've got so many people dealing with things electronically. And the fellowship has been absolutely fantastic. And I would like to thank you all for your fellowship and support over the last year. It's been really encouraging, and you'll do a wonderful job in your communities and around the world. And I'd like to thank you for that and hope that you carry on. I wish you all the best for the next few years. On a personal note, I'd like to thank specifically the district team, without whom we wouldn't have been able to do anything. It's been a very good team. It's come together and worked very well. And I'd particularly like to thank the 3 AGs who are leaving at the end of their term at the end of June, which is Doc Cretney, Terry Bate and Michael Osborne. And thank you for your help over the years, and wish all the new officers all the very best. I'm effectively now toast. I have one thing left to do, and that is, of course, to be involved in the district handover, which will be on the 3rd of July, and it will be via Zoom. Rory and I are busy planning it at the moment. We're hoping to try and make it a fun event. The only other date I have for your diaries is the international convention, which was to be in Honolulu, and I know Rory had got his shirt already, but unfortunately he's had to put it away. But that will now be happening online between the 20th and the 26th, and information is coming out as we speak. And I believe that I think it's going to be a free event, which makes a bit of a change. I see that Martin Carty's got his hand up. Martin, what is it you wanted to say?
Well, just to say, within the Rotary family, we have had a new club in this year because we've had Rotary kids.
Of course, yes, quite right. And I've thoroughly enjoyed my interaction with them. They've been great fun. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your support, and wish you all the best in your coming year, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I apologise for the fact that I was unable to get our licence for up to 500 members kick in, and I shall be investigating why that was. Thank you all very much, and goodbye.
Bye.